So I've been making videos about different states performed weddings and the laws in each state. Now, one of the most interesting experiences I had was in Massachusetts. One time I performed a wedding in Massachusetts. The laws there are very interesting. And they were very kind to me. I'm very thankful to the clerks in Massachusetts who helped me out with this, because they really went above and beyond the call of duty. I was asked to perform a wedding, and it was really last minute. It was, which I like to do. I like to do last minute weddings because there's less time for people to cancel. I've had a lot of folks, they'll book me months in advance, a year in advance, and then cancel, and then like, all right, I have you on my calendar. I'm not booking any other weddings that time, and then I lose out on business altogether because I don't ask for a deposit, which most ministers do. Now, the Massachusetts, if you reside in Massachusetts, you're a clergy person in the state of Massachusetts, so I don't think there's any requirement for registration. I could be wrong, and if you live there, look it up. But if you don't live in Massachusetts and you want to perform a wedding in Massachusetts, you have to get special permission from, maybe there is some registration, I'm not sure, for in-state officiants. But if you're from out of state, a clergy person from out of state who wants to come to Massachusetts to perform a wedding, you have to get special permission from the state to perform the wedding. And not only that, but they send you this very fancy certificate with embossed seal and on a nice thick paper. It's pretty surprising what they send to each and every minister, rabbi, priest, imam, whoever who wants to come perform a wedding in Massachusetts who doesn't live there. They have to go through this process and receive this very nice certificate, which has to be mailed back together with the marriage license. And I also remember there was some issue, I think, was whether you use blue ink or black. That was also, I don't recall offhand. It had to be one or the other, and they had to send it back to me, and it was a whole complicated thing. So anyway, I found that quite interesting because, and they expedited that process so usually I would say, if you want to come from out of state to perform a marriage in Massachusetts, you should plan well ahead and contact the state as soon as possible so you can get that paperwork. And usually it takes a few weeks to do it, but I remember I was able to get it in a matter of a few days because of the special circumstances of that particular wedding. So that's my experience in Massachusetts. I noticed I've only used about 3.5 minutes here, so I'll talk now about Maryland. Maryland is very interesting. It's one of the easiest places as far as being eligible to perform a marriage. Basically, what Maryland says is if the couple recognizes the officiant as clergy, then they are legal to perform the marriage in Maryland. It was years ago. I can think of 2 weddings I did in Maryland, and I don't know if one of them, they were both Jewish weddings, and one was a friend of mine, and nicely, another one to come special in, the first one was when I was living in Virginia, so it wasn't that far, but another time I drove down from New York, I remember it was Super Bowl Sunday, and I told the groom, I said, "You're very smart, because men tend to forget their wedding anniversary, but you picked a day when all men will remember Super Bowl Sunday. The only problem is Super Bowl Sunday is what the Catholics would call a movable feast. It doesn't always, like Easter and Pentecost, anything that they really base on the Jewish calendar, essentially, even though it's not always exactly like that. It's called a movable feast because it's not always the same day. So Super Bowl Sunday is also a movable feast. So it doesn't help you remember your wedding anniversary. But if you have an understanding wife, I guess she'll just accept Super Bowl Sunday anytime. That's my lame attempt at humor. I have some better jokes I use at weddings though too, which maybe we'll make another video about. But in any event, as far as being able to perform weddings in Maryland, there are no registration required, and basically all it requires is that the couple should recognize the person as clergy. He doesn't need to be ordained specifically, so you don't even need to be, let's say the Universal Life Church style ordination, you don't even need to be ordained technically to officiate, as long as the couple recognizes you as clergy. So it's really the onus is on the couple. Do they recognize you or not? So if the couple has no problem with the Universal Life Church ordaining people online, so then you're good. Theoretically, though, you could have a couple who doesn't recognize you, and I guess, I don't know why they would hire you then, but that's up to them and up to you. And obviously, that's not what would usually happen. That's, I don't know how it works in Massachusetts as far as Universal Life Church. Universal Life Church will claim that all 50 states will recognize, and especially if you're coming out of state and you need to be registered. I don't even remember if I had to show my ordination or anything when I was receiving this letter, but I was just so amazed by Massachusetts how they send you this really fancy certificate, which winds up, you would want to like frame it and put it up on your wall. It's such a nice certificate, and instead you're sending it back in the mail, and they have to make a new one every time. It's just, let's say you do a wedding every day. Let's say you live like right on the border, and like every day you have a wedding in Massachusetts, and they'll send you 365 of these certificates. Maybe they should think of a different way of doing it, but whatever. I believe very much in federalism, and each state can do what they want. I just find it quite fascinating and interesting that that's the way Massachusetts takes it. But like I said, Maryland, wanted to mention Maryland is quite easy as far as how they perform weddings in Maryland. How to be ordained, how to you don't need any special ordination. So that's pretty easy, and no special certification. I understand there are other states. I think I was once asked about a wedding in Minnesota. Not sure if it was Minnesota or Wisconsin. I don't remember. It was from a website, and I got this request, and I said, if you're going to pay me $1,000, I'll come out there, but it's not really necessary, because in Minnesota or Wisconsin, I don't remember offhand which state it is right now, and there are a few states like this that they basically say you can have anybody who you want to officiate at your wedding. I remember there was a state like this where there was a judge who, due to his religious convictions, only wanted to do certain weddings and didn't want to do others. And they wanted to sue the judge for not doing the wedding, even though judges are not required in that state to do weddings they're allowed to if they want to. And also, more than that, it was, I think, in that particular state, anybody can perform a wedding. I don't remember offhand which state that was, but there are a few states that have this rule that just anybody who you want, and you don't need to register anything, can perform a wedding. I think in California they have such a thing that if you're not ordained, you can get a one-day waiver. I think Virginia has such a thing also, to perform one time a wedding, and of course each time you do the wedding you also have to do that. And in each state, I don't know exactly how expensive that is. Another interesting state, these are all states I haven't done weddings in. Nevada. Everybody knows, it's very easy to get married in Nevada. People go to Las Vegas to get married because it's very easy. I remember once I officiated a wedding in New Jersey, and the couple, I believe they were Chinese, and it was a big fancy wedding at a very fancy hall in New Jersey, and very nice, beautiful wedding. And I asked them, do you want any Chinese cultural practices in the wedding? And they said, no, we want a Western wedding. This is our Western wedding. That's how they described it. And we want it to be specifically according to American customs, to Western customs. That's what they were looking for in their wedding. This was in New Jersey, and I remember they had the sand unity ceremony, which some people like to have, and then at the end I was like, so where's the marriage license? They said, oh, we got married in Vegas, because they wanted to do the real American thing was to get married in Vegas. So they eloped in Vegas, and then they had this big wedding for their family in New Jersey. And I wasn't even aware that, I wasn't going to be signing a marriage license that day because they had already gotten married in Vegas. And in some states, they let you get a marriage license to renew your vows. I know New York allows that, which makes it easier sometimes to change your name, because you can change, some states are difficult to change the name. Like, I know, like in Virginia, it's not that easy to change your name. So most of the people who I know who got married in Virginia just never bothered. And, a lot of people that I know in Virginia, their wives still have their maiden names legally, and my wife also, because we had our marriage license done in Virginia. But in New York, you can change the name on the marriage license. I had a case like that, where there was a couple, they weren't sure first about changing the name, and then they decided they wanted to, so they had to send me back the marriage license, and that was a whole thing. I'll probably have to make another video about that. And then but back to Nevada. Nevada has also, similar to Pennsylvania, very strict rules about who can officiate at a wedding. And it's interesting, and among the rules are that, they don't allow people who just got ordained online and don't actually have a congregation to perform weddings. You have to actually be a pastor, a rabbi, whatever, at an actual congregation. There's a lot of very strict zoning laws in Nevada, all kinds of different things. So, so the interesting thing about that is, so then you see these, like Elvis impersonators. And I've never been to Nevada. I've never been that far west. But, you see like these Elvis impersonators and these people who do weddings in Nevada. And how do they do it? And the answer is that they actually not only have to perform weddings, but they have to open a church. And, so these like wedding chapels and stuff that you have in Vegas actually legally, I think, have to have church services once a week, whether it's Sunday morning or if it's a synagogue Saturday morning or whatever it is, like, I know there was the episode of Family Guy where they went to Vegas to have a quickie bar mitzvah, so actually you actually have to go, you can't just, start a wedding ministry, but you actually have to have an actual church or synagogue. And because of that, also because so many people, I think that's one of the reasons why the zoning laws, even for churches and synagogues, which would seem to go against the federal law of RLUIPA, are very strict in Las Vegas also, because there was a issue in Las Vegas with a very shady rabbi who was very controversial, and people wanted to start their own synagogue, and they were given a lot of problems with the zoning there. So I don't know exactly how they do that as far as federal law goes, but and maybe that should be challenged because of the federal law. That's been on the books for 20 years. It was Clinton who made the RLUIPA. So it's been on the books for a long time. More than 20 years probably. So anyway, that's a few of the other states. Let me try to think, what other states have I performed weddings in? I know I've done Jewish weddings in Florida, but I don't think I ever signed a marriage license in Florida. One thing I know about Florida is when you get your marriage license, they charge you a lot of money unless you take premarital counseling, and the clergy are encouraged to offer premarital counseling. And so that's, you can't, what I heard, I spoke to a rabbi there in Florida, you can't charge very much for it, but it is something that helps the couple get a lower price on their marriage license if they want to. And then you have also an interesting thing in Florida is one of the few states where a notary public can perform marriages. A lot of people think that in every state a notary can perform marriages. It's not the case, but in Florida a notary can perform marriages, and I found there's a website that the state of Florida made to give a sample ceremony for notary publics. And one of the reasons why I use that website is when I do civil ceremonies in Spanish, they have their PDF file of both the English version of this suggested ceremony and the Spanish version. So I sometimes have used the Spanish version from the Florida Notary website as a sample Spanish ceremony. Which, again, this is interesting, but as far as I know, there's no other special rules about who can perform weddings in Florida. I've never done a Florida, because Mommy's here. My papers are flying away. Peggy, why'd you let that?